Basically, Ms. Linfors is denying the services that were provided.
Even though the results were rendered useless, you're asking for them to be paid?
Mr. Hargrove, I was next going to call, and I believe, yes, the Susan B. Allen Memorial Hospital versus Tracy Reiner Lindfors.
In today's case, a defendant returns to court for the fourth time, clearly annoyed and insisting it's unfair to pay for a medical procedure she either never had or found useless. The hospital isn't backing down, and neither is the judge. Will she finally have to face the bill? Stay tuned.
Mr. Hargrove, do you have any other announcement, or are you prepared to make an opening statement at this time?
We are, Your Honor. I have a representative from on the front. The hospital here, and so we are ready to proceed.
All right, and Ms. Reiner Lindfors, are you also ready to proceed, ma'am?
I'm here.
Okay, and are you ready to proceed?
I believe so.
All right. Mr. Hargrove, would you like to make any opening statement in the case?
Your Honor, this is a matter that has dragged on for some time, and this is, I think, our fourth hearing, and basically, Ms. Linfors is denying the services that were provided, and so I have no real opening statement. I would call Miss Amy Devine, who's the revenue cycle supervisor from the hospital.
All right, and I'll let you do so momentarily. Ms. Lindfors, do you have anything you'd like to say by way of an opening statement, ma'am?
The debt is not valid. It's not a valid debt.
Okay. And in an opening statement, you're basically just announcing what you think the evidence will show, and you'll certainly be given an opportunity to testify and speak to any of those concerns as we go forward. Was there anything else you wanted to say by way of further opening statement?
Not at this time.
Okay. And Mr. Hargrove, if you'll call your first witness.
I would call Miss Amy Devine.
Ms. Devine, would you please raise your right hand? All right. And if you'd like to go ahead, Mr. Hargrove.
All right. Miss Devine, you are the revenue cycle supervisor at the hospital. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Have you had a chance to review the billings on Ms. Linfors' case?
Yes.
All right. Ms. Linfors has, in her answer, stated that she was not provided with the service that she was billed for, which were an MRI and CAT scans. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Was she in fact were the scans done for her?
Yes, they were.
Has she since then made any complaint to the hospital that you know of about the services that she received?
No.
Okay, thank you. Your Honor, I have no other questions.
All right. Ms. Reiner Lindfors, do you have any questions of the hospital's representative?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Miss Devine, were you there when those supposed scans or MRIs were done? Were you there and present when they supposedly were done?
No.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions for Ms. Devine?
How can you say that they're valid if you were not there?
The services were provided as we have results from those.
Do you have the results present with you right now?
No, but I don't have the results, but I do have the treatment authorization that you signed stating that you were in that day for the treatment and that was being performed.
But you don't have the results and you don't have the scans or anything present, correct?
No.
How can you validate that debt?
I reviewed them before I came. I did not print out the results.
So you don't have them with you?
No.
Go ahead.
I think she said,
You have the signed consent.
You're saying I signed what kind of consent?
The treatment authorization and privacy acknowledgement when you checked in, stating that you agreed to pay for these services.
That's just an acknowledgement. That doesn't prove that those services were valid or that those services, any services that were supposedly done were rendered unusable and not.
Your Honor, I don't want to object, but I think she's testifying and I'll cross-examine her, but if she has questions for Ms. Devine, she needs to ask her.
yeah, and I want to make sure you know, Ms. Reiner Linsforce, that you'll be given an opportunity to testify too. So if you want to characterize what happened from your perspective and certainly contrast that against the testimony that Ms. Devine has offered, you certainly may. But if you could please ask your questions in line with the scope of the questions that were asked by Mr. Hargrove.
I'm done.
All right. Did you have any additional direct examination of Ms. Devine?
I have only just really one follow-up question. Ms. Devine, what is the amount of the debt that is now owed?
$1,053.84 for the scans.
Okay, the scans, $1,053.84. I have no other questions for Ms. Devine.
Okay. Any further cross-examination of Ms. Devine, Ms. Reiner Linsforce, based on the question as to the amount that is alleged to being owed in the case? If there are no further questions, Ms. Linsforce, I'll inquire. Mr. Hargrove, do you have any other witnesses you wish to call?
Yes, I would call Tracy Linsforce, please.
Okay. Ms. Linsforce, you'll be given an opportunity to testify yourself as well, but you're being called by Mr. Hargrove. If you could please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give in the cause now and hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, Your Honor.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Hargrove.
Okay, Ms. Linsforth, are you denying that you had a scan done at the hospital?
I am denying that there was no valid reports for any services done at that hospital.
You didn't answer my question. Did you have a scan done at the hospital?
I don't remember.
Okay, you don't know that you went to the hospital?
I don't remember.
Okay. I have no other questions for her.
All right, thank you. And did you have any other witnesses, Mr. Hargrove?
No.
All right. Ms. Reiner Linsforce, if you wish to, you don't have to, but if you would like to tell the court your perspective on this, I'm happy to hear that now.
My perspective is I'm currently unemployed. I've been unemployed for 2 months now. At the time that any services were done, I was making $12 an hour with a college degree, mind you, at a school serving our country and helping to educate little ones. And for this to be, for the hospital to charge or to even say that I owe this amount when those services were rendered unusable, it's just beyond me.
Well, and certainly, again, you don't have to say anything more, but if you want to explain further what you mean by unusable, I'm not sure I understand that, and I just want to make sure I understand your heart and perspective, but I don't want you to feel pressured to say more if you
Sure.
feel like you've said enough, so.
Sure. So at the time that anything was done, whatever was given to my physician said those reports were unusable for whatever that they did. So it wasn't offered that that service or any service would be redone because of the hospital's neglect for making sure that a proper report or service or scan or whatever was done at the time was valid. So I don't believe that this is a valid debt.
Okay. Thank you. Was there anything more you wanted to add, ma'am?
Not at this time.
Okay, and I do want to hasten to add that there might not be another time. I mean, certainly, when you finish testifying, Mr. Hargrove may have some questions for you. Of course, if you were questioned, you would be given an opportunity after answering Mr. Hargrove's questions to have additional direct testimony. And certainly you'll be, at the conclusion of all of the testimony, given an opportunity to make a closing argument. But I don't know for certain whether Mr. Hargrove will ask any questions, and I would want you to know if he chose not to do that, absent some follow-on motion, there really might not be another opportunity for you to say anything that was on your heart as far as testimonially. So was there anything more you wish to add, or are you comfortable at this time that you've explained your position?
Well, I believe if you go to a medical service and they're offering up solutions and scans and reports and stuff, the general public, like myself, is relying on them to be professionals and for them to know their jobs and them to do a proper thing. And when you get report back that something is not usable or unreadable or not valid, then the hospital is responsible if they're going to make charges for things that honestly they need to, they need to uphold their part.
Okay.
If they're expecting for people to pay for a service, they need to be professional, medically trained, and everything on their end to be valid too. And I don't feel that this is valid. I don't.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Hargrove, do you have any questions for Ms. Reiner?
Yeah, just a couple that she raised. Who is your treating physician, Ms. Linfors?
It's Dr. Roush.
Oh, okay. Mike Rouse was the one that said these reports were not workable.
He was the physician. Yes.
Okay. And so you took them to him, and so how did he follow up?
I didn't take anything to him. The hospital provided what was needed.
Oh, okay. So the hospital got him, but then he told you that they didn't help him out. Is that right?
They were unreadable.
Okay. Your insurance paid for most of your bill, though, didn't they?
I don't remember.
Well, you've got a copy of the billings and stuff. Do you remember that?
I've not seen a copy.
Oh, okay. Judge, I don't have any more for her, but you're saying here today you don't remember being up at the hospital and having a scan.
I don't.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Linsfors, this would be an opportunity if you had anything more you wanted to say as far as direct testimony. And then when you finished, unless there are other witnesses you're intending to call, I would give each side an opportunity to make a closing statement. Was there anything more you wish to add, ma'am?
I just don't see that they have proven that this is a valid debt. There is no validation of this debt.
All right. Mr. Hargrove, anything by way of closing statement?
No, again, she went up there, clearly she had these tracings. They did the scan. Blue Cross paid for nearly all of it. There's some that's still owed, and as you can see today, she's denying that it even happened. So, no, we believe we're entitled to our $1,000, Your Honor.
Ms. Linsfors, anything by way of a closing statement?
Only that unreadable scans, and it's not validated. It's not a validated debt.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the zeal with which each of you have presented your respective positions, and certainly it does give the court something to think about. I would say that the court, having considered all of the evidence, seizes on a couple of points that I think make the ultimate decision the one that feels most comfortable with me, although I recognize that it would not necessarily be the case that each of you would think that it was the right decision. But I think where an MRI is concerned, and I know a tiny bit about those just from life experience, there's a lot made of the need during the 10-minute to 1 hour time period within which the patient is being examined, that the patient not move. And sometimes not moving is well nigh unto impossible. I don't know, I'm not familiar with the particular doctor in question. I don't know if the doctor that you had read the scans is a radiologist, or if they're in the sort of position to maybe have the greatest familiarity with the results of the examination or not. It strikes me that even if a patient were to die on the operating table, and that would have been an outcome that nobody would have wanted, there is still the likelihood that the hospital is going to bill for the efforts and services they had made in doing the best job they could in trying to help that patient. And I suspect that the same sort of thought would apply here. It may well be the case that no doctor could have read the MRI. That might be because of some problem in the equipment or the testing. It might be because there was movement by the patient. But it strikes me that there is uncertainty about that. And what there does seem to be certainty about is that the procedure was attempted, that the procedure was one that did not have apparently any complaints associated with it until the billing issue came into focus. It was deemed necessary and prudent and in line with protocol sufficiently so that Blue Cross has paid the majority of the bill, from what I understand, to this point, or your insurance. I don't know, maybe I misunderstood. It might have been a different carrier. But in any event, I think that it's probably, in the court's view, step too far for a patient sort of to take the position unilaterally and with maybe imperfect information, that the procedure that was provided was completely valueless. And in the circumstances, I'm inclined to find for the plaintiff in this case. And Mr. Hargrove, if you could please prepare a journal entry along those lines, I would appreciate it. And again, I appreciate the efforts each party had made in helping me to understand their respective positions. Thank you.
We'll do it, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, I don't understand.
I have found for the plaintiff, and you will be responsible for the indebtedness that was claimed in the petition.
Even though the results were rendered useless, you're asking for them to be paid?
I am indeed ordering that they be paid.
I don't even have a job. So how can I do that?
Well, at this snapshot in time, you don't have a job, but you explained that you had been, I think, sacrificially loving children in this country by virtue of your earlier employment, and perhaps given your education at a compensation rate that was one where you were contributing almost as a volunteer, it sounds like, but it also sounds like you have some relevant experience, you have education, you're very well spoken, and I suspect that you'll be in a position to obtain work, and I would guess that you're probably already trying to do that. And
I have been.
yeah, and in that context, you should be in a position to make the payments necessary here. And certainly, I can't speak for them, but if you want to reach out to Mr. Hargrove's office about some sort of a payment plan, I suspect they'd be willing to at least talk with you about that.
We will, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Reiner Linsfors.